All right. Thank you, Leo, for the prayer. Happy Sabbath, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good, hopefully. Hope everyone had a good week. Um, as you know, I'm speaking today, and I'm gonna take this sermon a little bit differently. As a lot of you know, I have recently been investing in the stock market, and I wanted to take a different approach by talking about the stock market and how it's actually very similar to our relationship with God. For a very basic explanation for those who may not know how stock market works, basically it's a place where we put our money by buying shares of a company or multiple companies at a certain price. With each share we purchase, we are actually owning a small piece of the company in the hope that the value of the company will increase. Because when the value of the company increases, the stock price goes up. And which is a good thing, because that means that we can sell those shares we once bought at a lower price at a higher price. And that's how you make a profit. Let me direct you to the company Amazon. Everyone knows who Amazon is, right? Everyone probably has used Amazon at some point. If you want to buy one share of Amazon right now, it's $3,200 for one share, which is an obscene price because most companies about $10 to $300 for a share, but Amazon is $3,200. Did you know the company opened in the stock, Amazon opened in the stock market in 1997. Do you know how much money you had to invest back then to be a millionaire today? All you had to do was spend $500. If you spent $500 on Amazon in 1997, it'd be worth 1 million today. It's so crazy when you think about it. It was once $1.50 a share for Amazon. And today, after just merely 20 years, it has grown to $33,200. If you wanted a real life example showcasing what the Bible meant about a mustard seed growing to a massive tree, look no further. Amazon is exactly that example. I was talking with my dad not too long ago about Amazon, and I was trying to pick his brain. I was like, I have the perfect excuse, okay? In 1997, I was just a kid in school with no money, but my dad, he was an adult, okay? He had the money, the resources. Where were you when Amazon was $1.50? Why did you not invest that? Okay, maybe you haven't heard of the company back then. How about when it was $10, $50, $100, $200? Why was it that you couldn't buy into this company at these points? Because if you did at any of these points, your money would be so much greater today if you had just put some money in there. I was so critical of my dad, and little did I know I was about to be humbled. Because 2 months ago, I started investing in the stock market, right? And I remember seeing the Amazon stock price, and it was $2,000, and I said, "Nah, who's gonna spend $2,000 on a stock?" Okay, I know my dad messed up, but it's too late for me. I can't buy a stock that's $2,000. I'm gonna go ahead and invest elsewhere. Well, let me tell you what. It's been 2 months since I invested in the stock market. My portfolio has increased about 2%. However, if I just took all my money and just bought Amazon 2 months ago, I would be up 50%, over 50%. But I doubt it. I said, there's no way. There's no way Amazon could go more than $2,000. And now as of Friday, it's $3,200. What a shame. What a shame. It's such a humbling moment for me. You know, in our Christian lives, I feel like we have these moments where we can invest in our relationship with God, like Amazon. And oftentimes, one way or another, we find an excuse not to invest. While not one action is going to keep us away from God, usually one miss leads to another and another. And then one day, at the end of the line, when you are with God at the end and you look back at your life, you'll say, what was I thinking? I missed church just because I was too tired. I turned down the opportunity to volunteer to church because it was too inconvenient. I skipped devotion. I was too tired to pray. This spiritual book is too boring. I had a long day in school at work. Now, I'm not saying we suddenly have to drop every single thing we do and fully invest our lives volunteering at the church, but there has to be a level of commitment and weight to our spiritual investments. Only going to church sometimes, praying sometimes, is just not good enough. I know I said Amazon was once $1.50 and it rose to $3,200, but you would have only made the money if you kept your money invested the whole time. Studies show that over 80% of people who actively trade stocks in the market lose money. There are actually a lot more people who lost money investing in Amazon than making money because they invested and sold at the wrong time. When you look at Amazon stock history, the stock price doesn't just increase in a linear line. It's not like $1.50 and it's a straight line to 3,200. No. It's like $1.50. It went up to $8 and it tanked to $5, went up to 100, went down to 15. And people buy at the $80 and sell at the 5 because they panic. You know, they buy when it's high, sell when it's low. And so many people have lost money investing in Amazon. You know, just this week I was investing in a stock and I panic sold, bought back in, panic sold, bought back in, and I ended up losing 2% of the money I invested. But if I just had faith and I just kept my money in the stock, I would have made 10% this week. But instead, I lost 2% because I wanted to cut my losses and only invest when it felt comfortable, safe, and convenient. They say 80% of active stock traders lose money. I'd say the same about Christians. I would say over 80% of Christians are in a lost relationship with God because we don't steadily invest in a healthy relationship with Him because life is hard. Life is busy. We panic sell our relationship with God for that extra nap or that extra free time. But Sid, I have to work. You are expecting me to quit my job. Someone has to work that shift. I have to make a living, and it is unfortunately the nature of the industry I'm in. Fine. But if you're going to miss that prayer, that devotion, or church, make it up to God. Set the extra time to pray another time. Listen to a sermon online. Get an audiobook and listen to devotion in the car on the way to work. We live in the most technologically advanced time ever. There are plenty of ways we can invest in our relationship with God. If I go on a date with Kaylin and we can't make that date anymore, we make sure to make it up somehow, a different day or time, but it will be done. This is necessary because this is what takes to show that you are committed and that there is weight to what you do. If you miss that prayer, that church, make it up. Because if you don't, you are admitting defeat. You're buying the relationship when it's high and selling it when it's low, when it is inconvenient. I told you that Amazon was $500, I told you that if you put $500 in Amazon 1997, you'd be a millionaire today. Now imagine if you were in 1997. Back then, I was in grade school. What if I just said, you know what? Forget grade school. I'm going to open my own lemonade stand and make $10 a day selling lemonade. If I had just done that, I would have made $3,000 in 1 year. I could have put that all on Amazon, and that would be $6 million today. Doesn't that just sound great? Man, let's take it a step further. What if I decide to skip high school, skip college, and I decide to just work that minimum wage job at Starbucks, making $20,000 a year? Oh my goodness, $20,000 a year. That looks like so much money now when you think about where it's going. I could have bought Amazon at $50, $100, $200. Imagine how rich I would be today if I just steadily invested in Amazon. I consistently worked that minimum wage job, investing and investing. I'd be worth hundreds of millions of dollars today. Forget dental school, man. Forget college. It's overrated. That's what I should have done. You know, that's what it is with God. But unlike with Amazon, you know investing in Him is a guaranteed success. Amazon was uncertain the whole way. But with God, it is a certainty. If you consistently invest, you will reap the reward. Matthew mentions in Matthew chapter 25, 37 through 40, then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger, invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? The king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did to me. So I tell you similarly today, you are not a Christian unless you devoted yourself to God in the least of times, when it was least convenient, when the timing isn't right, or when you're too tired, when the stock is going down. Stay the course, reap the reward. Don't be the 80% who miss out. Now, let's say you're working steadily on investing in your relationship with God. Good. But let me ask you a question. Who is the boss of the relationship with you and God? Who is the CEO? Is it God? Well, I have news for you, and this is a bit of a plot twist. But you are not just an investor in your relationship with God. You are also the boss. You're the CEO of the relationship. Hear me out. Yes, God is God, but we're actually the ones who manages the relationship. We are the ones who determine if the relationship succeeds or not. God bestowed the power of freedom of choice upon us. With great power comes great responsibility. God is not the CEO. He's more like the board of directors who selected you as the CEO. He puts you in charge. Let's go back to Amazon. Everyone knows the CEO of Amazon, right? Jeff Bezos, the richest man alive, worth over $130 billion. Let me ask you guys, take a guess. What do you think his annual salary is? What do you think his annual salary is? He's worth over $130 billion. What do you think his annual salary could possibly be? I have a plot twist for you, yet again. His annual salary is about $82,000. That's it. I make more than Jeff Bezos from a salary standpoint. Actually, I don't know. With coronavirus and maybe it's a debate. But point being is, I can basically make more than Jeff Bezos on a salary standpoint. But that's not where Jeff Bezos makes his billions. A lot of his billions came from the millions of stocks he owns in Amazon. At one point, those stocks weren't worth very much. But by managing the company well, he was able to grow the company. And when the company grew, the stock price grew and went up. And when that happened, that's where his billions came from. But his annual salary was just $82,000. You can look at the salary and just say, well, doesn't sound very rich. But he invested in his own, he had an investment in his own company, and he was able to reap the reward because as the CEO, he was able to drive and grow the company. That is, if you think about any big company, that's vital to be able to be an innovator, to innovate and expand. If you think about Google, it was just a search engine, but now it has phones and laptops. Apple used to just be computers. Now it has iPhones, iPads, MacBook Pros. Microsoft used to just be a software company, but it has Xbox and video games now. Facebook used to be a social media for college students only. Now it's a social platform for the world. Amazon, you know what Amazon used to be? It was just a small online bookstore. And now it sells everything. It even sells groceries. You can have groceries sent to your house. But you know what? It used to just be an online bookstore. As Christians, oftentimes, we fall victim to keeping Christianity in its own section. We keep it as a small online bookstore. This section is for work. This section is church. This section is family. And this is personal time. These are church friends. These are family members. And these are coworkers. We have a tendency to compartmentalize. I remember back during Sean and Stephanie's wedding, I had a moment where I ran into someone, a Loma Linda church friend, Jeff Cho. And the thing is that I only see him on Fridays and Friday nights and Saturday mornings. And usually most of the time when we talk, it's spiritual. So naturally, when I ran into him on the wedding on this beautiful Sunday for Sean and Stephanie this afternoon, I reflexively shook his hand and I said, "Hey, Jeff, happy Sabbath." It's a Sunday afternoon. Why am I wishing him happy Sabbath? But it didn't help that he's wearing a suit, and he looks nice, like as if we're at church. So my brain was just wired to say happy Sabbath when I saw him. And I was like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? What was I thinking? But you know what? Subconsciously, I have unintentionally categorized him as the church friend, the guy I see at church. So seeing him outside of that setting was so unusual that saying happy Sabbath wasn't unusual to me, even though it was on a Sunday afternoon. At work, I have a male assistant, and during the day, he always addresses and responds to me in the most proper way possible. I'd ask him, and I'd say, "Hey, Robert, can you grab me the floss over there?" And he'd say, "Yes, sir." And I'm not exaggerating. I'm seriously not exaggerating the enthusiasm. He always says, "Yes, sir," to anything I ask. And I remember one time I took my work out to the movie theater to go watch Parasite, the Korean movie, when it was still in theaters. I bought tickets for my work and we went out to watch. And after the movie, we ran into some of Robert's friends, my assistant, and he would introduce me and say, "Guys," and we're all similar in age, right? He's like, "Guys, I want you to meet Dr. Choi." I'm like, "No, don't, God, I'm not Dr. Choi, okay? We're outside of work. You can just call me Sid, okay?" But he's like, "No, you are Dr. Choi, and I just want you guys to know he works so hard at our office." Yada yada. I'm just so embarrassed. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, please, I'm just Sid, okay? I know I'm Dr. Choi in the office." But when I think about it, I was like, everyone at work calls me Dr. Choi all the time. It is actually so weird to actually have them call me by my first name outside of work because I'm so used to seeing them and having them call me by that name. On the flip side, it'd be so weird if, let's say, Stella all of a sudden called me Dr. Choi instead of Sid, right? I'd be like, "Whoa, what's wrong with you? Why are you calling me Dr. Choi now?" We're just so used to certain things being a certain way. We compartmentalize. We all do it to a certain extent. We want to keep certain areas of our life separate from others. And honestly, for the most part, that is perfectly fine. In fact, essential even. But I feel that God often gets too compartmentalized. He is often in the spiritual category when he should be part of everything. I'm not saying we have to suddenly go and lead Bible study at work, but I believe some barriers have to be broken in order for there to be true growth. We have to be creative. We have to be innovative. Truth be told, I'm pretty jaded when it comes to patients thanking me at work. Even if a patient breaks down crying with emotion, thanking me for what I did, the cynical side of me always thinks that, well, at any point, any one of my patients can turn on me at the snap of a finger when something goes wrong. They were once so happy, and now they're upset and want me to do free work. Because of that, any praise just kind of bounces right off of me. In that sense, I have a very guarded heart, despite of how emotional of a person I am. But I will never forget this one time at work. After I saw this older lady as a patient, she said to me, "Thank you so much for what you do. And I want you to know that I keep you in my prayers and pray that God will guide you in your work." And I remember I was just, wow. I was like, whoa, I was taken aback. It was the one time I really felt a positive impact from a patient's comment. It wasn't just because it was a spiritual comment to me. It was just because I did not expect it. It shattered the barrier I had. It broke from the norm, the usual thank you. It was something with a little extra that let me know that this was truly sincere. In Matthew chapter 22, verse 37, it says, Jesus simplifies the commandments by saying, there are really only two commandments: love God and love your neighbors. By simplifying it, I honestly believe what Jesus was actually doing was challenging us to find our own ways in which we can honor him. Yes, honor your parents, have no idols, keep the Sabbath. Those are great. But it's not about strictly following those rules. Jesus is breaking the barrier and saying it is actually all about love. Now go out there and use it in a way that shows me that you do in fact love me. God wants us to innovate. God was an innovator. For the king of Israel, he didn't just pick a fit, well-groomed macho man. No, 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 no. It was a scrawny shepherd boy who, by the way, kills Goliath with a sling. God used Moses as a leader. Why Moses? He couldn't publicly speak. He was so scared to speak, and he was a murderer. It wasn't the Levite. It wasn't the priest that helped that man. It was the lowly Samaritan. God also loves the innovators. That one lady wasn't going to just ask Jesus to heal him. No, she was going to just simply grab a piece of his cloak. The centurion didn't need Jesus to come over. Just say the word and the servant is healed. God always shares the stories of the innovators, the ones who made the impact when you least expected. I challenge everyone here today. How will you innovate your relationship with God? How will you take that small online bookstore and expand it to this massive company, this massive successful company, this massive successful relationship with God? Maybe send a text to someone you haven't talked to in a while to catch up. Maybe buy your coworker Starbucks or donuts. Maybe volunteer to help out with church service. Maybe buy your parents, friends a gift, not because it's Father's Day, Mother's Day, or a birthday. You're doing it because you love them. Maybe instead of listening to music in your car all the time, maybe insert an audiobook every once in a while with the devotion. Maybe you should give a compliment to your friends and coworkers more often. Maybe go out and buy McDonald's for that man with the sign on the street. Innovation is key to our spiritual growth. Routine is important. It gives us structure, but we cannot just keep the routine 100% the same all the time. That's how life and relationships become stagnant. We have to innovate. I don't want to intimidate people by suggesting we have to turn our lives inside out. That's not what I'm saying. Too much change all at once is also bad, and maybe even worse. But here's my quote of the day. You know, guys, I love my quotes, right? So this is my quote of the day. Not every day has to be different, but you have to be doing enough to know that you are making a difference. Don't get caught up in the same routine. Spice it up, innovate. Innovate so that $1.50 turns to a $3,200 stock. Innovate so that the investments you made with God will grow to something so great that God will, when you look back with God, God will be able to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Let's bow our heads. Dear Jesus, Lord, I just thank you for the Sabbath morning, Lord. But I just hope that through the message you spoke to me, that we all remember that life will have its routines. Life gets busy, but it's so important that we do take that extra effort to make some little changes here and there to show that we are invested in this. We are all in for this, and that we are trying to grow, and we're trying to expand this relationship that you have given us the responsibility as CEOs of. Help us to be that innovator so that strives to grow the relationship so that it could be so grand that you can tell us, good, well done, good and faithful servant. Help us to remember to not allow ourselves to stagnate, not to make the excuses and miss out. Help us to have weight in what we do so that even if we happen to miss out on something, that we do make it up to you, that we know that your relationship means something to us. Help us to be able to show how meaningful you are to us on a daily basis. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.